Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to these conversations with me on a Sunday afternoon. It is 6 p.m. and it is Pride Month. So happy Pride to all of you. I'm really excited and happy that is Pride Month because people like me and citizens like me have gone through rough patches and rough times in the back. And I am part of the generation that saw Pride actually was born. Believe it or not, the day before that I was born, there were riots in New York. What a coincidence! I'm a rioter. Anyway, don't pay attention to that. But first and foremost, happy Pride to everyone, to all humans around the world, all citizens of the world, because it belongs to all of us. So happy Pride. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to just show a quick image or images of what was Pride at the very beginning. Um, these are very how do I say this? Images that touch my heart because I didn't, thank God, I did not go through this. So these are people rioting in New York back in 1969. I was born on 29th, 1969. This was on 28th, 1969, when the police basically stormed into a very well-known bar known called Stonewall. And if you are not familiar with Arab history or my community's history, um, these started a series of riots in New York that basically took the citizens like me or my community out to express the anger that we felt for many, many years for being openly gay, openly homosexuals. So that started what today is Pride. Last year, the year before, was 50th anniversary of Pride, and there were celebrations across the world. So this is something that started here in New York, in the United States, and had percolated through the world to every single corner of the world. I saw images of what the Pride Parade is in Sydney. And they are just unbelievable. It's a huge carnival. And it's a celebration because at the very end, we are humans that have a gender, but have the ability to make decisions about our gender and our identity as we grow older. Anyway, so I wanted to say happy Pride to all of you. This is, to me, like I said, fantastic opportunity to talk about this and to talk what my community had gone through. Um, I'm sorry that I wasn't for the last month doing the broadcast, but you saw me perhaps on social media talking about what is happening in Colombia, in my home country. Quite difficult political uproar, circumstance that perhaps is brought by the pandemic and by heavy decisions by the government. I will cover that during the week. I have conversations planned because it's been 1 month of protests in Colombia. So I haven't been able to be with you every Sunday because I've been doing small um, broadcasts on Instagram. Anyway, long story. Again, happy Pride to all of you, and thank you for tuning in. And because this is Pride Month, last edition of Oscar Talks, I had Mike Fornelli. It was a blast. He is the director of Pride in Phoenix, in Arizona, and he was amazing. He's on my blog, and I think he's going to go through. He's going to come up in my blog this week, and the link will be there so you can see it. But I wanted to tell you two things. First of all, if you want to ask questions to my guest, please use the comment section on the side. I have a way to see in every single platform this is being broadcasted, who's asking the question and where it's coming from. Either you are watching or listening even this on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook Live. I'm missing two or three of them. Vimeo Live, and I can't remember which one is the other one. But you can ask your question, and then I will see it coming through, and then I can ask my guest your question. And also, during the week, you can check this broadcast if you go to my blog, whatwouldoscardo.com. As you know, all of you, I think all of you know, this is not my day-to-day work. This is something that I created through the pandemic and now has a lot of you watching. And by the way, my number one fans, Billy Joe and Judd Herberger. I'll send you guys a huge kiss. Thank you so much. We had a blast going to the Ballet, Arizona. Um, 2 days ago, we went to the Desert Botanical Gardens, and it was amazing. Like it was a little warm, but it's Arizona. But those are my two biggest fans. So I send them a kiss. Billy Joe was my co-chair a few years back for a annual fundraiser by 1 and 10, which is the organization we're going to talk about, and he's president. And she was my co-chair, and it was so much fun. So anyway, I'm going to show some pictures and stuff as I go, but I want to introduce you to my guest today. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is my guest for today. That is my guest today, Nate Rhoton. How are you, Nate?
I'm doing well. I have to say, I have forgotten about some of those memories. So thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Well, that's what your life is all about. This is kind of like a warm up to what we're going to be talking about. But thank you for sitting with me on a Sunday afternoon to talk about all things Nate Rhoton. And happy Pride to you.
Of course. Anytime Oscar de la Salas asks you to do something, you say yes, and then you ask, what is it about?
You guys are listening? Are you guys listening? This is exactly what you go and say when you see me face to face. So thank you for sitting with me for a cool 1 hour of conversation, everything pride and everything 1 and 10, and about your life as well. So tell me about first and foremost 1 and 10. What exactly is 1 and 10?
That's it's harder to describe than you would think, but one in
Hmm.
10 is in a as brief as I can describe it,
Hmm.
is an organization that provides services to LGBTQ youth and young adults ages 11 to 24. Founded in 1993 here in Phoenix, Arizona, we've been providing services since then, and the organization has changed and transformed very similarly to the community. So the LGBTQ community, if you think about it in 93 when the organization was formed to today, it's gained, in many cases, much more acceptance, many more rights, certainly.
Yep.
But we're still finding that, particularly our younger people, have more and more need for support. And for a variety of reasons, people are coming out earlier and earlier. And this is great news. I mean, I didn't come out till I was 24. I don't know about you, Oscar,
Yeah,
but
later on, later in life. Yeah,
yeah.
we're
And
a different
imagine,
generation.
but imagine how life could have been different if we
Yep.
had been able to go to winter formal and prom with the guy that we had a crush on in high school, and what adolescence would be like. And so as we've seen that transform, 1 in 10 has answered the need for services for those young people. We have expanded across the state with 10 satellites, including Yuma and Prescott and Flagstaff, and reaching rural areas of the state. In fact, we reached 46 different towns and cities during the pandemic
Wow.
through virtual programming. So we have
Wow.
young people that are joining us virtually via technology that otherwise, maybe a young trans youth growing up in Seligman, Arizona,
Wow.
that would never have an opportunity to access services. That most importantly is telling that young person they are not alone. And this is what 1 in 10 does, pure and simple, is it provides community to these young people so that they know they're not alone. And when they're having that difficult day, they know that there's other people that they can turn to for support.
And these are people that are trained. So we're talking that is a staff that is trained. Each one of the members of your staff are trained in a very a different way to assess and address difficult circumstances by these kids. Correct?
Correct. And we used evidence based intervention models such as sources of strength for our suicide prevention,
Hmm.
as well as we do a lot of fun stuff too. I mean, it's not, if you're going to reach young people, it can't all be about, oh, come, you're 12 years old, come to a leadership development group. They're
Yeah.
not going to come to that. They want to come to something that's going to be fun, where they're going to find other youth like them. And so it may be something like macrame, which for those of you that are from the 70s and 80s, like Oscar and I are, you might remember macrame. Well, it's made a comeback. And then things like art therapy, music therapy, and down to our summer camp, which hosts a variety of leadership workshops, but also including the basics of summer camp that you remember as a kid, like high and low ropes courses and canoeing and things of that sort.
So I'm visiting the page right here from 1 and 10, and I read all your mission, the three pillars that you just mentioned, and the ability that 1 and 10 has to help the community, and our community, and the kids are part of our community. Or perhaps they don't know, but they will become part of the community. So it's a process of exploring. I have one question, and I wanted to ask you this. I We had brunch this morning with Rick McCartney and Corwin Williams. And then my question at that moment was precisely this one right here on top. It is through COVID-19. So this is the page from 1 and 10. Tell me what happened through COVID-19 the last year, and we're still in it, but we're trying to get out of it. What happened?
14 months ago, like the rest of the country and the globe, 1 in 10 being the, as I like to call it, the little engine that could, we had to really rethink every bit about how we provided services. Because if there was one thing that we knew within the first few days and even weeks of COVID-19 and the pandemic shutdown is our youth needed us more now than ever before. And
Hmm.
we created online and virtual content programming, etc. Everything from a Discord server, which creates an electronic youth center essentially,
Hmm.
to Twitch programming, Zoom
Wow.
based programming. We were able to also create our emergency relief fund, which for the first time ever in the history of the organization, we were able to deploy financial resources directly into the lives of our young people through our housing navigators, our employment navigators. We were helping our young people connect to unemployment, to connect to how to get their stimulus check. I mean, I'm sure you remember in
Yeah.
April of last year where people were
Yeah.
like, I don't know where my stimulus check is going. And this was at a time when
Yeah.
they needed it so badly. And for some of
Yeah.
our youth, it's a little bit different than maybe how some of us grew up, in that
Yeah.
their parents may not accept them and may not have been in their lives for several years, but may still be claiming them on their taxes.
Hmm.
So they aren't getting that stimulus check. They may have a job, but they were laid off because most of the LGBTQ youth community, like many younger folks, but predominantly in the LGBTQ community, it is in tourism and
Oh
bars
yeah.
and restaurants and things of that sort.
Yeah.
All of that was gone overnight. So
Yeah.
we were able to provide emergency relief directly into their lives, paying their rent, ensuring that they were not um, suddenly
Forgotten.
homeless
Yeah.
because of the pandemic. So it's really a safety net that enables us to provide those resources and be there for them at a time when they need us.
So this was on top of the programs that you were already running, and then you had to put an emergency relief and react fast to what was
Yes.
happening, right?
Yeah.
I can imagine
It feels like a
trans.
lifetime ago in some ways, but
Mhm.
I can't believe it was only really a year ago.
Wow, yeah, I know. And then I'm pulling up the page, and this page still up, and you still can donate, right?
Yes, and we are still providing these services. We also
Hmm.
partnered with City of Phoenix through CARES Act funding from the federal
Yep.
government to provide emergency food boxes. So we had curbside pickup of food boxes in our what we termed "Let Us Eat." LETT apostrophe UCE eat, with food boxes that also corresponded to our 1 in 10 cooking program. So the youth and their families could pick up these food boxes with up to, in most cases, $15 or more of fresh produce in addition to all the ingredients to make the meals. And then it coordinated with our cooking program so they could make it together at a time when families really needed to have that sense of community and connection, whether that family was their biological family or their chosen family. They were able to not only feed themselves, but also come together as a unit. And then after that, we employed Amazon Pantry. So we were able to, again, through CARES Act
Oh.
funding, send $100 or $200 food pantry orders from Amazon directly to our youth all across the
Hmm.
state to ensure that they did
Wow.
not go hungry. This
Wow.
included all kinds of pantry items that you would normally associate with, when you go to the grocery store. But it enabled them to have that and not have to endanger themselves by going out in public. And many of them, were afraid and didn't want to go to the grocery store. So it also
Yeah.
accomplished that too. So we're not only giving them food security, but ensuring that they also feel safer from the pandemic and COVID.
So I was just showing, and then this is so important because you were taking the program to them and still supporting them through these very difficult times.
Correct.
But I was just showing this is how 1 in 10 looks an interior currently because you had to move from building due to a fire that it was created. We go to that in a minute, but this is the building, and the kids were not able to go there. You were creating community, and because of the pandemic, everyone had to be indoors, and then they couldn't travel and go to 1 and 10. Is that open now?
So we are not open quite yet. We are
Okay.
readying the space now. We went
Okay.
through a little bit of a refresh. I won't give too many secrets because we want to save those for when the youth first walk into the youth center. But we have some really cool surprises made possible by our partners at Discover Financial or Discover Card, as well as Choice Hotels and some private donors that made it possible for us to really transform the space in some really special ways. And we'll be able to announce that shortly when we reopen for in person programming in July, August.
And then this is, I can imagine what it's going to be. So this is the staff that we were just talking about. These are specialists in each one of their type of work. And
Yes.
what I really love is your programming. So thank you to all the staff. The staff is still on. Everyone is in, right? Like
Yes, in
that's
fact,
okay.
because of different grant opportunities and the
Yeah.
increased need for our services, we actually grew our full time staff by 45% during the pandemic.
Oh,
So we were able to
wow.
not only retain our incredibly talented people, but also grow that team to respond to the need. We are, I will say, updating our website now. We are missing some important headshots here of new staff members that have joined the team, and we're in the process of doing that.
So now the programs that you had, they're still coming back in person, and now we all have discovered that we can do this like this via broadcast or live or Zoom calls. I can imagine those kids. All like you mentioned in Wingman in Arizona, not having the ability to come to Phoenix. Now you are coming to them via these calls, right?
Mhm. Yes, and I think that a silver lining that a lot of organizations and corporations learned during the pandemic is that we can offer a blend. Before the
Yep.
pandemic happened, I never had a single video call at 1 in 10. I just didn't. We didn't have the need per se. Now we know that we can do this, and I think it adds to our tool belt of ways
Yep.
that we can deliver services and programs to our youth in really important ways. But I will say that in person is definitely needed and something that our youth really miss. And we hear
Yeah.
that call, and we are coming back for in person. We'd never consider not doing that. Particularly for our special programs like our annual summer camp, Camp Outdoors, and other programs that really just we can accomplish a lot of great things virtually, but it's just not the same thing as in person.
So all these programs have to have a board of directors and people that support it. Tell me the process of becoming a part of the board of directors. I'm showing on the website these wonderful people that are supporting these institution, either financially or networking. What a board of director, what do they do?
Yeah, so our board of directors, as mandated by the laws in
Hmm.
the state of Arizona for a 501c3, there are governing boards. So they have a fiduciary duty to oversee what I consider and what is a community investment each and every year into this organization to make our programs possible. We do not charge a single dollar for any of our programs. So they are
Fantastic.
absolutely free to the 2,000 and plus unduplicated youth that access those every year. And the board of directors sets the strategic vision for the organization as well as oversees the financials. And then I am their employee. So, as their executive director, I deliver on their strategic vision and mission and plan, and then am in charge of hiring the staff to be able to do that. Our staff is incredible, and I could not do what I do without them. I really view myself as the one who is ensuring that the resources are there for them to do the work that they do so well, that is not only life changing, but life saving.
So do you mention, God, you just said something life saving. There's two things that I want to talk about. Hopefully you can illustrate me because I do have my questions as well, which is the pronouns, and the other one is life saving. So today through lunch or through brunch this morning, I mentioned that I had the opportunity, let's say, or it just came to me, or just I was able to catch this conversation that it was put on social media from a youth talking to her parents about dating a transgender man, meaning a woman who became a man, and this is a teenager.
Mhm.
You said something life saving. So I immediately reacted and I did a little bit more research and I wanted to find out what was going on and find out what happened because this recording, I was really distressed after I heard the recording. And I wanted to share it with all of you. This is I'm not sharing something that someone has no permissions, because this is out on social media. But I want to bring the attention to what I just listened, and then perhaps walk with you how many times the parallels of this call with the kids are coming to 1 and 10. So quickly listen to this one.
Like 7, 8 months.
Okay, so you're willing to give up your family for someone for I'm just saying this. This is the truth. You're willing to give up someone your family for someone for 7, 8 months that doesn't even know their left from their right. 85 pounds. It's the reality, Lise. You're listening to what the world wants you to hear.
No, I'm not.
Yes, it is.
No, I'm listening
Yes.
to myself.
Okay.
No, I love you. Guys,
No.
guys, I love you so much.
You know what?
And
I'm sorry, but you put a major wall between us.
Dad, no, that's not what I wanted.
Well, it is. It's what you get. It's just like I've always told you. You go out, you do the right things, you get blessed for it. And you know this is not right. This is not the way we brought you up. And if this is what you choose, we can't change it. But this is what to choose. These are the consequences.
No.
Yes, yes. And you'll go to this whatever it is. Oh, I feel so bad. And they're going to comfort you like, it's okay.
No,
it's
I'm
not
not
okay.
saying that this relationship will last forever.
Yeah.
I want it to. But I just wanted to tell you about it. He's amazing.
No.
But do you really think we're gonna support it?
No.
You know what?
We support everything you do. As I said to you,
I know.
You thought
and I'm
yourself-
so grateful, and that's why I was
Yeah.
putting off telling you. I didn't want to.
no, you were not telling us, but you were still gonna pursue it.
Yeah.
You
thought you
knew.
knew this was
You
gonna
knew
happen.
it was going to happen sooner or later.
You made
Elise.
this choice knowingly. You knew what you were doing. You made the choice knowingly. Okay? Nobody's holding a knife to you to go be his lover.
No.
Nobody is doing
It's not a
that.
he,
That's
Mom. It's a
not-
she.
No, he's a.
No, he's not a boy. For goodness sakes.
Yeah, I was born a girl, but I told the doctor he was wrong.
And Elise,
And we do.
if you choose this path, then you need to speed up being an adult really fast. Okay? That means taking over a lot of expenses. That means a lot of things that your dad was doing is no longer going to do it.
Dad.
No. I've had it. I would never have thought you would do this to me.
I'm not doing it to you.
Yes, you are.
I'm not doing it
Yeah,
to you.
yes, you
Dad.
are. To this day, I remember how I sat in that cradle and hugged you, and just it was such a good feeling.
So no,
Yes,
please.
You made this choice, Elise.
No.
We didn't. You
Dad,
made this
I'm
choice.
still.
That was what I listened to. My heart, I'm containing myself. Hard, very hard to listen. Do you receive this type of kids coming to see you? I'm sorry, this is emotional for me. What do you tell a kid like this when their own family have the to cross that bridge, or perhaps never cross it? All those kids come in distress, and your team has to react.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's fine. I'm where you are. I'm sorry if I caught you by surprise, but this was me at 3 in the morning listening to this recording.
And more than anything, I hope that there is a parent out there that maybe has a child that is trans or gender nonconforming or non-binary, that either already knows or is about to find out, and that this message can send just a moment of clarity to them around how important it is to to just provide love and support. The parent in this situation is obviously reacting out of what I would say is a place of ignorance and lack of education. I know that for some, and I grew up in a very religious Mormon household, for some it's difficult to reconcile. And I get that. I understand that. The Bible, or what religious context or text that someone may believe in, according to their definition and interpretation of it, may make it seem difficult to do.
Mhm.
But with the right education and research, I think they can understand and also see, once they have that level of base acceptance, they will see their child so much happier and living to their full potential in a way that you cannot negate. I've seen in our young people time and time again, and they are so resilient. But
Yeah.
particularly at our Camp Outdoors, where I mean, it's just literally one of my favorite programs, if I'm allowed to have a favorite. My first year in 2016, I went as a camp counselor, as I do most years. And I was in the 11 and 12-year-old cabin with my good friend, and you know her all too well, Oscar, Letitia Fry, as my co counselor. And between the two of us, we were charged with ensuring that these 8 young people, 11 and 12-year-olds, had a positive, good
Yeah.
camp experience as they worked through all the workshops during that week and all of those things. And we had this one young person, though, went by the name of Blue, used they, them pronouns, and came from Arkansas. And Blue's parents had disowned them after they came out as trans. For whatever reason, their grandparents, though, accepted it. And they found our camp, and they sent Blue to Camp Outdoors here in Arizona. And when Blue arrived, they were unpacking all these stuffed animals from their backpack and building this wall on their top bunk that they had selected. And sorry, my dog all of a sudden decided to run all around the room. And
That's fine. So tell me what happened with Blue. I'm totally taken by this story.
Blue built this wall and climbed behind it and started sucking their thumb. And I thought, this is going to be a really difficult camp experience. Thinking back to all of my camp experiences as a Boy Scout, in very Mormon religious summer camp experiences. And a few days later, though, Blue ran into the cabin and was completely transformed. I mean, just a loud, energetic, happy, young 12-year-old. And I stopped them when they ran in the cabin door, and I said, Blue. And they're like, what? And I said, what changed? And they're like, it's my first time seeing someone like me.
Oh,
And then they ran on. And I was left there like blinking away tears as I realized the real magic of what we do is we bring young people together so they can see that they're not alone. That for the first time for some of them, for this young person from another state, can see that they're not the only one that feels this way. There are other kids out there, and they're going to support one another and give each other strength. And I hope and pray for this young person that you played the recording for, that their parents gain understanding, and as the young person said, how happy they are. And for many parents who have teens that are in really unhealthy, unhappy relationships, what would you give to know that your child is experiencing love for the first time with someone that also loves them back? I don't think that's wrong. I don't think it's a bad thing. And I think with the proper education, people will come around, and they already are. And more than half of the youth that we serve are trans and gender nonconforming. And I think as a society, we will start to find, and again, already are, that sexuality and gender identity, which are two very different things,
Correct.
are more fluid than we like to think. And fortunately for our younger generation, they don't have a problem with it.
Nope.
It's us Gen Xers and baby boomers and
Yep.
beyond that we don't get it. But you know what? It's our responsibility to educate ourselves and understand it so that we can accept it and see the magic and beauty that is inherent to that.
So, what happened when I listened to this recording and parallel to Blue is that you find yourself being whatever person you have or whatever person you are, and then you find other people that are like you. There was a video during the 80s. I can't remember the name of the band. It's just a little girl dressed as a bee. And then she goes through different meetings or groups of people, and then they don't look like bees. And then she goes and runs to another one, and they don't look like bees. And finally, at a distance, she sees all these bees, and she is as happy as can be because it's another bee just like her. Is
Yeah.
is it happens to all of us in many levels of circumstances in life. We
Yep.
want to find people like us. Now, there's something with that you just said them, and I wanted to perhaps that was my second question is I want to enlighten myself and to those like me about pronouns. This is pronouns 101 because a lot of people are wearing these ask my pronouns and people's like, well, what are we talking like the dad? Clearly, there is this conversation. She is not a man. She's a woman. And then the mother says, well, it's like me going to the doctor, telling the doctor that I am no longer a woman, that I am a man. I'm just like, my like you said ignorance. I mean, this is clear ignorance, but I want to judge them. I usually don't judge people. This time I want to because there is all these pronouns that can be used for all sorts of identities. So walk me through all this so we all understand what is his, she, him, their, them.
Yeah. I love this question, and it is
Yeah.
definitely something that has become more and more common in corporate America,
Yep.
at school. I guarantee you, if one of our listeners out there or viewers, it has a, I would say, first through, I don't know, 10th grade, they
Yeah.
probably are in school with someone who uses they, them pronouns. And I loved
Oh.
the popular television show, This Is Us. In
Yeah.
an episode a few weeks ago, the daughter responds to the mother and says, Mom, they use they, them. And the grandmother like smirks and gets it. And she's like, well, that's what this means. And she schools her. But the mom isn't comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And I think for many, I've heard from some people, is this a fad? Is it something
Yes.
that is just, the new thing? The answer is no. The answer
Okay.
is this has existed for time and all eternity. It's just that now we are at this really special, I would say, cool place where there
Hmm.
is a language and community that gives space for those that don't identify as one or the other. And for those that say it's not grammatically correct, I would challenge them and say it's absolutely correct, because for those that identify as non binary or gender non conforming, they have a blend of both genders. And what I
Okay.
mean by that is you may have someone that identifies as masculine in certain situations, as feminine in others, but not enough to ever feel like they are really at home in their own bodies as being male or female. So it is truly a plurality of the genders. And again, back to that fluidity of
Correct.
what we look at the gender paradigm is, I think, really special. And back in history with indigenous communities
Hmm.
and two-spirit identities, it very much aligned with this, with the ability to recognize and accept that
Yeah.
both genders were present. How special is that? How does that impact you, Oscar, or me identifying with he, him pronouns
Hmm.
if someone else identifies as they, them, because they truly believe and see that they have this plurality of gender?
Correct.
I think it's great. I don't see how it bothers anyone or anything, any process. But what it does do is create the need for more understanding and the proper labeling. And yes, labeling is important for folks that identify within these communities. Things
Yeah.
like your driver's license or legal identification.
Yes.
If you go through
Yes.
TSA at the airport and your ID says that you're female and you're very masculine presenting, it can create an uncomfortable situation not only for you as the traveler, but also
Yeah.
the TSA agent that's supposed to be there to ensure our security. Let's set them up with the best information possible. And now over 13 states have a non binary or X mark for gender. And
Wow.
this is important because it's recognizing who these people are and giving credit to really their identity. It
Wow.
also many studies have been done, and Trevor Project has quite a few stats on this
Hmm.
around suicidal ideations and suicide attempts of those who are trans and gender nonconforming. And by ensuring that they are recognized by the pronouns that they identify with, that they have the right support, it significantly reduces those chances. So it's really it comes down to a life saving measure that we recognize this. But those of us that have the privilege, like myself,
Yep.
of identifying with the pronoun that I visually appear as,
Hmm.
it's up to us to normalize the process of asking for pronouns. I had the pleasure today at brunch of having a server whom I'm fairly certain used they, them pronouns, and I used those back with them. And then their manager came over and about something else and referred to them as they. And I thought,
Wow.
that makes sense to me. And why not just make that more normal? If you don't know someone's pronouns, if you don't feel comfortable asking, just refer to them as they or them, and you can't go wrong. The
Yeah.
other thing, in from a workplace perspective, is how many times have you copied, CC'd someone on an email and said, "I'm looping in so and so, blah blah blah." By doing that, you're bringing a new person into the conversation that maybe everyone else on the email doesn't know. Say,
Hmm.
I'm looping in so and so, my deputy director, and then in parentheses after that, they, them, or he, she, or he, him, or she, her,
Oh.
their pronouns. Just normalize putting it in there. And where this is really critical is if you are looping someone in that uses they, them pronouns, you're setting everybody in the conversation up for success.
Correct.
So if they don't understand it, they can Google it. But they know that this person uses they, them pronouns and their name is this, and they use these pronouns. It makes it that much more normal to do and doesn't put it on the onus or responsibility of those that are gender nonconforming or non-binary to do.
You just brought something so much light to some questions that I had. And this is my community, and I should know all these things, but you're bringing information that I was not aware of. I had a conversation with someone actually. Yep, I follow this person on TikTok. I love TikTok, and his name is okay. Sorry, their name is Blossom, and then he had a different name before and changed the name to Blossom because it's gender nonconformance, and that person um, truly had a conversation about the ability to be in a room and then someone in the corner, and then you cannot say if that person is facing the wall, you cannot say, oh, that's him or that's she. You go, what's their pronoun? Because that person, until you talk to that person, you will not know what their pronoun is. I think it's amazing. I mean, I think it's clear that there are people, and I understand if I understand correctly, there's cisgender, meaning you look like or you express yourself like the gender that you are part of.
Yeah.
And there's the other portion of all this, which where you live in between. Your world is in between. And do you that now I saw when you have your name, Nate, he, him. So that means that's how those are your gender pronouns, correct?
That is correct. And how easy is that to do, to just normalize it? I will
Yeah.
also say from a business perspective,
Mm-hmm.
if people don't understand it or don't know what it is, they just sort of overlook it. So it doesn't do any
Yeah.
harm there. But for
Yeah.
your staff members, for employees whom it is really critical for, it tells them that you are a safe person to have these conversations with. I would also encourage folks to talk about it and to, I have several staff members who use they them pronouns whom are very masculine or feminine
Yep.
presenting. So you can't judge it based off of an appearance. You can't
Yeah.
say Nate sitting here wearing a t-shirt and a sport coat and looking masculine. I think I don't care, but that I use he him pronouns. You can't assume that. So I have it in my name right there. I think it's
Mm.
important for us to just normalize that, and in greetings, in meetings, again in emails. This is why people put it in their signature file of their email. It just makes it that much more normal to just ask. And I do it all the time now. And I just say, by the way, what are your pronouns? And if someone
Wow.
doesn't understand that,
Yeah.
they'll ask you, and it gives you the opportunity to have that conversation. Oh, it's important to me because I want to make sure that I refer to you by the pronouns that you identify with.
Correct.
I'll also add too, and because it used to be the case where you would say preferred pronoun.
Oh,
That is not used anymore.
okay.
It's because it's not preferred; it's who you
Who you
are
are.
as a person. So using the pronouns that that person identifies with
Wow.
is respecting them in a way that is no different than remembering their name, than remembering who they are. I mean, it to me makes so much sense, and it's not difficult to do.
So we didn't have to go through that portion of our lives. We basically, back when you and I were young, it was just either he or she, and this is the next step. This is the basically understanding humanity, correct? If I want to express that like that, we're understanding who we are, and we are basically announcing who we are to the world. To the world. That's exactly how I see it.
Yeah, that's so true. And but I would also add to that, Oscar, that
Yeah.
there were many people when we were young that these pronouns, and there are statistics around this,
Yeah.
may have saved their life. If
Wow.
they had been able to identify and be a part of the community that saw them for who they are, and not just select the box of LGB or straight or
Yeah.
what have you. When you look at gender, it's different. So you have sexual identity and then you have gender, and gender is a very different thing. And
Yeah.
by allowing folks to have that community and that sense of being, you're telling them they matter, they have other people like them. And back to the story of Blue at Camp Outdoors for 1 in 10's summer camp, it's telling them they're not alone. And I think for any of us, that's what we're looking for in life, is to connect and feel seen and know that we're not alone.
And just the process of finding yourself is so personal and is completely different to each one of us. I happened to run into a picture from 1 in 10 where you're basically announcing that you were coming out, and then you were announcing the reason why you were coming out. So I had Mike Fernelli with me, and it was an incredible conversation, and he gave me all his journey through coming out. Tell me about your version or your life coming out.
Well, first, I really want that skin back. My face looks like purely porcelain or something. I don't know what I was doing for my skin regimen at that time, but
Photoshop.
where did you find these pictures? So for me, coming out was sort of a multi-layered process. And as I mentioned, I grew up Mormon, and as I
Yeah.
pointed out in that sign, as I came to my 18th birthday in the Mormon Church, you typically, particularly males, but now males and females do this. And I would hope that at some point they'll recognize that they have gender nonconforming and non-binary members as well. Um, Submit their paperwork to go on a mission. I,
Oh
at
yeah.
that time, decided that it was not something that I believed in. I still find a lot of value in the Mormon Church, and I think that we have board members on 1 in 10's board. They're devout Mormon, and I have family that is still as well, and they accept me. But at that time, I didn't find that there was a place for me within that religious context.
Mhm.
So I told my parents I'm leaving the church and I'm not going to go on this mission. My dad had a really negative reaction to that. And years later, when I came out at 24, he said, "I just wish you could have told me then
The
that this was
reason.
why you didn't believe in the church." And I said, "Well, Dad, I was still going on my journey. I didn't. I knew, I thought I knew, but you're hoping and praying that maybe you can change it, particularly back then in the early 90s." And I just wasn't ready to. So by the time I was 24, when I did come out to my family, they were all, for the most part, very accepting, and my friends even more so. And so, by and large, it was a very positive coming out experience. I'm very grateful for that because it's not lost on me that many people do not have that. And still to
Yep.
this day, we hear from youth time and time again that their families have not accepted them. And this really concerned us during the pandemic because you had youth that were in homes with their families that did not accept them. Maybe they had just come out, or maybe they were planning to come out. But now we're saying, hold off on it, don't come out,
Yeah.
especially if you question whether or not you have support of your parents. Wait
Yeah.
until we're done with this pandemic, because the last thing you want is to have to be in a home or find yourself homeless because of that. In our housing program, our supportive housing program that we call POND, or Promise of a New Day, we
Hmm.
have provided supportive housing to 142 young people since 2012, and 70% of them cite family rejection as the number one reason for their homelessness. So this is still an issue. It's still something
Wow.
that happens, much like Blue's parents,
Hmm.
whom didn't understand, but fortunately their grandparents did. Not everyone has grandparents like Blues. So we have to be there for our young people to ensure that they have that stability, because once a young person finds themselves on the streets and homeless, all of the other challenges with life come at them full force, from
Yep.
addiction to
Yep.
all the things that you can think of. And we have seen it firsthand at 1 in 10. So that is what we are fighting day in and day out to prevent and to ensure that we are walking beside our youth to help them be as strong and resilient as they possibly can.
So you just mentioned your journey. It was your personal growth, and it is how you live your life, and that's what is happening in your life today. And one thing that I'm just really obsessed these days is like, do not push the kids to come out or to find out who they are because
Yeah.
they're going through their own journey.
Yeah.
I have a quick video that I want to show you about like what I know what your journey was, but I want to ask you a question right after we see this quick video.
Okay.
So I call this segment the wonderful years. So those were some of the pictures from your wonderful years. I'm sorry if I just like stole some pictures from your life from social media, but tell me about that journey to today. How do you see now that you see all these pictures? What is the reflection?
um, I wish that I could go back and tell that young boy that he is okay being who he is. I spent a lot of time and energy trying to be someone different, and also experienced some negative self behaviors to try to hide that or deal with it. And I think adolescence is hard enough.
Hmm.
You add into that trying to cover up a major part of who you are. And unfortunately, for a lot of young people, it's disastrous. It's life ending. Um, I'm so grateful that I have the mother that I do, and the siblings, and particularly my grandmothers. I was just with my gram today, and we were leaving the grocery store because I have to drive for her, and she said, "I don't know if it's possible, but I feel like I love you more and more every day."
Oh,
And the day that I came out to her,
yeah.
she was always she still is a very free spirited individual, and her license plate said "free to be," FRE to be. And she gave it to me, and she said, "I want you to have this because I feel like it reflects who you are now, and I want you to know, sorry, that it's okay to be you."
Yep.
So that's my message to my young self: is be free to be you.
And that is a journey. You are here because you had to go through all that, and
Yeah.
it's basically a process. So
Makes us who we are today.
yeah, exactly. I get asked why the introduction of this podcast is a bunch of diamonds. Now you understand the reason why. Because we're all stones, and at some point, by all the frictions and the things we learn in life and all the hits that we have in life, we become a beautiful rock and a diamond, transparent as our lives and true as we are.
I love it.
That's the process. That was the thinking process when I cut that introduction for every person that I have in front of me. Because to me, and I just say it publicly all the time, is I wish the entire triangle of society was flat. At some point, when you are in front of a lot of people, the triangle of society goes away and it's all flat because we all are the same. It's just a table. We should start at zero. All humans are the same. So now that you saw those pictures, what can you tell kids today? What would be your message to specifically kids today?
To not be afraid to reach out, to look for resources. Organizations like 1 in 10
Mhm.
really can help. And I know it's difficult. I remember and you can equivalize it, and this might sound silly, but equivalize it to the first time that we walked into a gay bar. It was my
Mhm.
first time seeing two men kiss or hug. But now it can be so much more healthy than going to a bar.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of positive things that happen through the bars. I mean, it's been a part of the fabric of the LGBTQ community for so long.
Yeah.
So I don't want to minimize that by any means. But for our young people, particularly the 11 to 20, find an organization like 1 in 10 and connect with other young people like you, because you'll find so much support in just having that connection.
And I have with you just mentioned something about the bar life or the bar itself and the safe haven that we find we when we confront or we are close or we enter into a bar that is basically our lives or it looks like our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So years back, we had an issue or something happened in our community, and it was the massacre because there's no other way to call it. What happened in Pauls in Florida? That was when we were, let's say, our community was vibrant in front of the law and in front of the leadership in the country. So it was rough. The last before the pandemic was difficult. I have to admit that one of the most difficult years for our community was the fact that we were scratched, let's say, from the places where the main house of the country. Let's put it like that. The main house in the country did not celebrate us. The main house in the country made us feel that we are less than.
Yeah.
And it is troublesome for me to understand that. Before the pandemic, there was no announcement, zero announcement about the LGBTQ community, and actually it was a battle to basically try to eliminate every single guarantee that we have achieved through the years since we decided as a community come out. Tell me, before the pandemic, that distress, that stress, was that felt through through the youth? Did you feel that they were afraid?
Yeah. It was it was so palpable during the pandemic and even before. I think the best way for me to summarize it is when Amanda, the poet laureate for the
Hmm.
United States of America, at the
Inauguration.
inauguration, when she was reciting her poem,
Yep.
the weight that was lifted off of so many of us, um, that's where we really felt the full weight of what had been on us, because for the first time, we felt like we could breathe, we felt lighter,
Yeah.
and it had been quite some time since well before
Yeah.
the pandemic. And I think those moments in history are the ones that teach us the most, but also reflect and allow us to see the harm and what we've been carrying. It was, for me, I was shocked. I was shocked at how I felt after that day. And to have that lifted off finally was, it was considerable. And it had only been 4 years. So
Imagine that.
imagine for our Black brothers, sisters, and non binary folks whom have been carrying the weight of slavery and racism and white supremacy for this long. Imagine what that could feel like. We can't. It gave us just a glimpse of what that could be. Oppression is real, and it's
Mhm.
something that we as a community and a society need to take on, and take it on in a way that we cannot stop. We have to double down and ensure that those amongst us that are feeling oppression no longer do.
Basically, is don't let the guard down.
Right.
Yeah.
That experience should teach us
Mhm.
the importance of that, if nothing else.
Yeah, and not that I want to have a different point of view, but I do, and it's very personal. The fact that that trickles down to our youth and our little ones, because they see how the the battle of the forces within a society are so damaging that a situation like Paul's happened, where there's no reason to kill people other because of their sexual orientation. There was
Right.
no one there who was in any way doing anything illegal.
No.
There was nothing illegal in that bar. There's nothing illegal of a kid who understands that they perhaps they represent or their bodies are different and they express themselves in another way, and they're walking in the streets. There's no reason to shoot them because they're not doing anything illegal, or to kick them, or to banter them, or to call them names. Happened to us during our wedding, and everybody knows what
Right.
happened during our wedding, which was basically banter. So, and yeah, and many other things. But my point with that is that you, as an organization, have an early understanding of that specific situation. And I believe no, you give the tools to these kids to be able to understand where the society is, where they are, and what they can do.
And they teach each other too.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
I never
yeah.
want to minimize what our youth do for one another, because honestly, Oscar, there we are. We give them tools, but they are so incredibly just amazing and capable. And so a lot of the magic comes from them just connecting with one another and supporting each other.
It's a different generation, like you just mentioned. They don't care. They basically don't care. Is the
Yeah,
parents at Gen 6 and then Gen X and all that stuff that they are just all those people that they're
yeah,
trying to change what these kids are feeling and the way they interact as a community society within themselves, because they don't have any preconceived notions of what society is just putting in front of them.
yeah.
I feel like I need a pulpit and I just need like a microphone and tell people exactly what they need to do. But talking
It is
about that,
Sunday.
oh, it's Sunday. That's right. Sorry, my mass is late, but you
Preach.
see what's happening. So my point with all that is that I've seen you through the years creating a person that is resilient and strong, and it has you have created a person that is a leader. I'm going to run this clip and I want to ask you two questions. After that, we're almost past the hour, but I enjoy this conversation like no other, and the comments are coming and we will answer them later on, but I want to run this for you.
Thank you.
So you just saw what I think is leadership. And
I need that video to put on my LinkedIn, please.
Mike Fornelli requested his. I mean, I like every single person that I've talked to, because what I like is just like what I just told you is like the people that I talk to, they go through all this process of becoming someone, and the rest of the community, believe it or not, these kids are looking up to you. And this is the community is looking up to you, or it's looking to you for leadership. How does it feel? First of all, that's what is delivering a message. You really have a message, and that message goes along with who you are as a person. For a moment, forget about 1 in 10 human rights campaign and all the rest. You have a platform. What is the final goal? If I ask Nate, what is the final goal of this platform? Am I seeing someone that in the future I have to fill a ballot and say yes, I vote for him?
Whew. Well, I hope so. I've always so this is sort of silly, but the little bar that I used to go to when I was at ASU,
Yep.
I said before I was 21, I'm going to go to that bar because it was by my house, and all my roommates and friends made fun of me because it was a very divey little bar. And I loved the day I turned 21. I went in there and I got to know the owner and all of the patrons, and hearing their stories and hearing about how there's this one patron, Jessica, who worked for Little Caesars at the Kmart. And the day she got a 25-cent raise, she wanted to buy me a drink.
Wow.
She was so excited. That 25-cent raise was going to really make a difference in her life. I loved hearing about how their lives were going. And again, I'm 21 and all my friends were like, let's sing karaoke, let's go do this. And I really just wanted to hear how Jessica was doing. Jessica was also, by the way, one of the first lesbians that I knew.
Oh.
And she was one of the first people that I told that I was gay. And to me, that relationship, even though we didn't know each other very well, it meant everything to me. And I just really enjoy hearing from people about how their lives are going and about how I might be able to make a bit of difference in that. And so for that reason, I've always been drawn to running for office. Our state can make it a little bit difficult to feel like you can run for office and make a difference,
Mhm.
depending on the office.
Yep.
Not minimizing any of the offices because they're all important.
Yep.
But for me, city council for City of Phoenix is definitely a goal and something that I would love to do. I love this city. I'm I've always said I lived in Dallas on a job assignment, and I was so excited to come back because it just made me love Phoenix that much more. This city is a diamond in the rough, just like your intro. Um, that what this city has gone through and the heat that we get in the summer just makes the whole rest of the year that much better. And I love the people here. I love our city. I love everything that we do. So I would love to help contribute to that and make it that much better.
Well, I'm telling you, you are taking all the big strides and continue to take those strides to understand our community from a point of view that not many people know how to control, how to administer. The administration you've done with several of the nonprofits that you have worked with makes you a good candidate, and I say it myself. How about that? But
Thank you.
no, I mean truly. I mean, I mean, there's other people from our community that, because of the city where they are, I want to say that, or they were at that time, they became leaders. And look where the city is. And I'm talking about Tempe. I'm talking about Neil Giuliano.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's exactly a good example that you put your talents to work and for your community, and look where we are. And Neil knows these. I truly believe he's a great asset. Was as a mayor, and look where the city is today. And then the more the valley grows, I think Tempe is just creating a huge momentum for
Look at
itself.
Tempe Town Lake, and I was a student at ASU when Neil was the mayor. Not to
Yep.
make me feel old, but I loved, and I remember reading the state press at ASU and
Yep.
thinking, "Wow, our mayor is openly gay.
Yeah.
Maybe I can come out at some point." So that representation is so critically important, and that
Right.
painted that for me at a young age.
And the more that this city grows, the more that we see our diversity in many ways, not only racial diversity, but also, as we clear know, gender diversity and gender pronouns in terms of diversity. I mean,
Yeah,
now I understand everything. I mean, the fact of the matter that I didn't think about the TSA example, I'm like, oh, it makes a lot of sense.
I've
So
seen it firsthand so many times.
so it's very important to take strides the rest of the country and hopefully continue the work that this current administration is doing and the previous one stopped in flat
Yeah,
dry for what the steps that we were taking,
yeah.
because the last thing we want to do is to value every single human because of their talents and bring the talents to the community to serve the community.
And even endanger them in a way that you don't mean to.
Correct.
It's real.
Correct. It's right up about the hour, but I just want to say thank you so much, and I just want to leave you by yourself in front of the camera, and take a deep breath. I would love for you to give me your final remarks, any message that you want to send, and then when you're done, say, "Well, thank you," and then I'll come back. But I just would love for you to leave a message, whatever message you want to leave to the community, because I created this platform precisely to be connected with my community. So I'm going to leave. So go ahead.
More than anything, I want to say that if the audio clip that Oscar played tonight, and I wasn't aware that that was being played, if that resonated with you in one way or another, to better support a young person in your life, to seek to understand, to ask questions, please do so. The way that the parent reacted in that audio clip is understandable, perhaps, but we can do better. And we never know the harm that is done when we don't seek to understand. We all have differences. And today is a different day. It's a day where we are working to, we'll never be the same. And that's amazing. But to understand those differences is key. And it starts with you. It starts with you sharing your pronouns, asking for another person's pronouns, putting your pronouns in your signature file, and more than anything, understanding the young people that are in your life or seeking to understand them by asking questions. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Oscar, for having me.
Well, thank you so much for a good hour of a lot of emotions. Sorry, we went through like everything.
No, I appreciate it. You surprised me, and I'm not easily surprised. So
I know,
I
I know, I
appreciate
know.
it.
But thank you so much for everything. And I hope the road that perhaps is in front of you and will take you to a leadership at a different level
Thank
happens.
you.
And you can always count on me, count on us, Gary downstairs, watching this show or this live broadcast. And for sure, if you need anything for 1 and 10 or at any given time for anything, we're here to support you.
You know we text and call you as soon as we do.
Yeah, I know, I know.
Thank you to you and Gary. The two of you have just been phenomenal to 1 in 10. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So we'll see you soon. Talk to you later. Bye bye. That was Nate Rhoton. What a show! Oh God, this is for the books. I He had the same reaction that I had with that call, that recording that I listened to at 3 in the morning. I think it was, and I was just bawling. I was just crying because it opened a window that is difficult for a lot of people to understand, a conversation that is difficult to understand. And we listened from Nate that they go through this at 1 and 10. So I understand the importance, and I hope all of us as a community, as a society, understand that these are big strides to need to be taken. We have to be better. We have to support our kids because that's the only thing that is going to continue the all of us humanity at higher levels and not look back and say we made a mistake. Anyway, so I want to say goodbye by saying happy pride, happy pride, happy pride, happy pride, as many times as I can and as many times as you can. So when you go to Target and see, Target should pay for this. When you go to Target and see the aisle of happy pride, understand that is not a economical or financial situation, and I don't care if the big organizations and the big corporations are taking money out of our pockets because it's pride, because there is a message. We finally are in the forefront of the community. We finally have a place in an aisle that we say happy pride, and all those multicolors flags tell you that we are here and they were here to stay. Because for all of us in my community, my freedom, my life as I am is much more worth than a life lived without being who I am. I'm going to leave you with that because it's Sunday night and I felt like I just opened a different book. But I'm going to announce my next guest next week. You can go to my blog and watch all this or add my notes about this conversation. But I thank you for your time. It's 7:20. I'll see you later. Thank you so much. Have a great week. Bye bye.